The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, review.
Welcome everybody to another great Wrestling to the Max Raw review for May 7th, 2018. And of course, I am your host tonight, Gary Vaughan, and with me is your normal co-host, Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Fail on my name, but let me just welcome you. It is Biskobing. It is completely phonetic. But let's pause for a second. Let's welcome you back. I did a little round of applause thing for you on here. So welcome back, Gary.
I appreciate that, buddy, and I apologize on messing up your last name. I am working on as much sleep as I can get.
I understand.
Okay. So, and I definitely wish I could have been here with you every Monday night. But, if anybody has not heard, and we have not really explained it a lot so far, Sean and I did a Backlash review. So did you and
yes.
Liz and Harry. So we've had two great reviews come out for everybody. But on ours, I didn't let anybody know anything, and I haven't really explained a lot. I'm just really quickly here. If you didn't know, my wife had our twin boys. And they were a little bit premature, about 3 months premature. So I've been kind of busy, and you guys would have been really bored with my reviews of Raw because they would have been too late, and also me sleeping probably during half of it. So I am so thankful to Liz for taking my spot and helping, cover for me. She did a great job. I appreciate that. And Brandon, you always do a great job. So I feel like, I didn't really worry about anything, to be honest with you. I knew you guys would handle it just well. So I appreciate being back. Thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, I'm just so glad to be back in the saddle. That's all I can say, Brandon. It just feels good to be back here in this chair and getting a chance to do this.
Well, like Sean said, the best way to, get out of your, pressing matters in the real world is to get back in the cell and do what you like to do and, get back into a groove, and that's exactly what you're doing tonight and last night.
I definitely, and this is a work in progress for me. Like I said, I'll be later in the show. I'll probably call you Bandon. Hey, Bandon, what do you think about this? So, just be aware of that.
That's perfect.
So, well, anyway, I know everybody.
Hey. You're not the only one. Granted, this isn't as pressing, but the night that you come back, my streaming service decides to pull a little shenanigans on me, so I had to watch the beginning of Raw as I was watching the middle of Raw tonight. So it's been interesting tonight.
Oh man! Well, hey, you know what? I'm sure on this episode there were a few matches you could pay more attention to the other hour rather than the middle hour, or vice versa. So that's the positive thing about that. But yeah, man, things go crazy when I'm around, and that's okay. We're going to get this thing done, and I'm excited about doing this Raw because this, of course, is your post-Backlash Raw. We're going to get into a lot of things when it comes to Money in the Bank. That's the next big pay-per-view that they are really promoting pretty heavily here. So let's get into this thing, Brandon. How about it?
Let's do it.
All right, well, let's start off by talking about Mr. Kurt Angle coming down to the ring, and he's, of course, letting everybody know, you know what the best thing about WWE is? They don't stop. They keep going. And so we're not worrying about Backlash anymore. We are talking about Money in the Bank, and he is telling everyone that there is going to be 2 Money in the Bank qualifying matches tonight because Money in the Bank, there's going to be a male and female Money in the Bank match for both, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hey, we got to get people in these matches, and so they started to do that. So of course he let the whole entire crowd know that there were going to be some big matches for them to be looking forward to. When it comes to the female side, they were going to have Sasha Banks, Ruby Riott, and along with I'm already blanking on the other one. Who was the other one? Ember Moon.
Ember Moon, who
Yeah.
won.
Yes,
You're
she won.
forgetting the winner.
Well, I just pulled up my review, and you know why? You know why I was thinking about this is because they had Bailey around ringside.
Yeah, that's true.
And that really throws me off because anytime Sasha's around, they always put Bailey.
Yep.
And I was like, what the heck? It wasn't Bailey. Ember Moon. Well, I did watch this, folks. I'm just, remembering off the top of my head. But they had that match also planned along with the male version of it, which is Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor that we'll talk about later as well. So they set those matches up for us early in this thing. And, that's fine and dandy. What were you going to say, Brandon?
Well, I was just going to say, Kurt made it sound like there were going to be 2 matches apiece. Mm-hmm. But based on what I saw, and I'm sure we'll find out more tomorrow night, but I saw that there was going to be 2 men's matches, but then just 1 women's match. So, not sure how many. There aren't really enough women that I don't think to make 2 6-women Money in the Bank ladder matches.
Yeah. See, I like the idea. You're going with co-branded pay-per-view. It makes sense to me to only have 1 Money in the Bank winner. I don't care what side it goes to. And it really, do we need 4 different, situations going on where you got these Money in the Bank matches for both brands, blah, blah, blah. Because it don't matter anymore. The pay-per-views are co-branded. It does not have any really big feel to it anymore. So just give one of the brands that Money in the Bank for the men and one of the men brands for the females.
To be fair, they are still at least trying to hold on to the whole brand split thing. Not sure how long it'll last, how much longer it'll last. But they are still trying to make us believe that they are still trying to hold on to the whole brand split idea. So,
yeah, but you've already warned us, Brandon. It's not going to work out.
I have.
You've already warned us. So, but yeah, Kurt Angle goes from there, and of course, guess who comes out to let him know that guess what, he deserves it, not anyone else. That is, of course, Braun Strowman.
Braun!
Yeah. So he lets everybody know that, hey, when he was a kid, he got bullied by some kids. They built a tree house, and he didn't like it, so he shoved the tree down. I love that story. Cute little story.
That was
great.
Basically,
I know, it was pretty odd. Because just honestly, I kept
thinking, I could totally see him doing this.
You know what's going to be in the future for us on Camp WB?
Oh,
they're going to have that.
I want to see that now. I want to see Braun on Camp WWE.
It's going to happen eventually. But yes, Braun, so of course he comes out and does his thing. Well, Kevin Owens feels like he deserves it, not Braun, because guess what? In the match that they had on Backlash, the wrong guy got pinned. So that match doesn't count. Actually, him and Sami Zayn should have got the victory there. Kurt doesn't care. Kurt says, well, you know what? I'm going to solve this situation right now. You and Braun are going to have a qualifying match to be in the Money in the Bank for tonight, right now. So they have their match, and Braun, pretty much gets things going pretty heavy, but Kevin Owens does find a way to get the upper hand through some of this match, which was kind of nice to see because Kevin Owens has been beat up by Braun Strowman a lot. So it was kind of nice to see Kevin Owens get a little offense, but in the end, we all knew who was going to win. Braun Strowman is going to get the victory. What did you think about the whole, setup and, of course, this match?
The setup was nice. I liked how I liked the whole Braun story, and then Kevin Owens. I'd have to go back and watch and see if that is actually the case that Sammy would have been the legal man. But Kevin basically saying, "Hey, that match doesn't count. We should have won." Yada yada yada. Very basic heel tactics with Kevin, and the match. The match was solid. You didn't really expect much with these two because, Kevin, while he's a great worker with most guys, it's like, especially with how he's been used in WWE recently, you knew that he was going to try to cheat his way into a victory. And he did. And he actually did quite successfully. That tornado DDT that he put on Braun off of the barricade was great. I love that spot, and then he almost got the count-out win as a result. But Braun was able to get back into the ring. I mean, with how they've been pushing Braun and everything, you kind of expected Braun to win here. But, I mean, it's kind of funny. We talked about it when they were on SmackDown of, they're just kind of playing second fiddle to AJ and Shinsuke. Well, mostly AJ at the time. But now they're playing second fiddle to Reigns, Strowman. You could even throw Rollins and Balor into that picture. So it's like KO and Sammy just get the bad end of the stick for all of these brands, and it's just like, where do they fit in at this point unless you actually go full on with them as a tag team?
Yeah, I think right now they're flirting around that top of the mid card and maybe possibly into that, heavyweight title picture. But you're right, the main event picture is kind of filled up right now, and Kevin and Sammy really are not going to be in that until one of those other guys you just mentioned takes a break, or they decide that they're kind of tired of running with one of those guys. And, it kind of scares me because the only guy that I could see them getting tired of using maybe is Finn. But maybe not. Maybe
well,
for
even
what we saw tonight.
I mean, Finn and Seth, I was putting in there generously at this point.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The way Seth Rollins is going right now, I don't care if he's just the Intercontinental Champion. They care about this guy.
The Intercontinental is the Intercontinental Championship is the real main title right now on Raw. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but you're right. You make a great point there because the real Universal title is,
it's
hanging
a joke.
out in Canada. It's a joke, and it hangs out in Canada most of the time. So, or wherever Brock resides half his days in the U.S. or in Canada. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And this whole thing with Kevin and Sammy, I'm okay with it for the most part because they do give them time, right? They're not buried under a bunch of other people. They get a chance to actually shine wherever it may be. And I'm happy with this. I think it was great to have Kevin Owens get a lot of offense against one of the better, bigger, stronger guys on this roster. It makes me very happy because it means that they still have some faith in Kevin Owens, right? Yeah. And he just signed a big 5-year deal, so this guy is not going anywhere, at least for the time being. And Sami Zayn, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with him? But so I mean, we have Kevin Owens, I think losing, but still in a way getting a chance to have some win here because he does look very well, or at least against one of the bigger guys. So happy with that. Braun is going to be qualified, so now he's moving into that Money in the Bank picture. Now, after this match, we go on and we talk a little Roman Reigns because he has a little segment here and he is being asked about, of course, what he plans on doing tonight. And, of course, he says he is going to go and he's going to get the victory, all that good stuff. But really it's because he's pissed off. He's angry because people still doubt him. He's a Universal Champion and people still don't believe in him. And he's going to make it known that, he is here and he's pissed. So be looking for him to get the victory against Sami Zayn and Finn Balor. And then we also have Goldust coming out and getting in front of Kurt Angle and saying that he wants to qualify for the Money in the Bank match. And then Jinder Mahal kind of interrupts and says that he doesn't get enough respect and he should be the real guy qualifying for Money in the Bank, and says that it's basically deserved. And so Kurt Angle says nothing's really deserved here, and you have to prove to me that you should even get a chance to qualify. So he puts him in a match, and he'll be taking on a rather interesting opponent. So we'll get onto that in a minute. But what did you think about these segments and what you had here, at least between Roman and the whole thing with Kurt?
I mean, I'll talk more about the whole Roman segment a little later as compared to someone else. But the Roman segment, while if this was done completely in a vacuum, it would work. But some of the things he was saying, and granted this is coming from someone who knows a lot more than most do, but for those of us who are in the know on this segment just came off as laughable. Because now they're going back into this whole, oh, I'm not the chosen one. No, I have to fight just as much as anyone else does. I'm not into backstage politics, yada, yada, yada. Everyone can see through your mirage, Roman. And last night proved it. So, yeah, it just fell completely flat. If this was done 4 years ago when Roman was new, then it could have worked. But now, after all of the things that have come out, everything that has happened with Roman, it just doesn't work. You've got to do... They got to do something. I mean, we saw it last night, as soon as that match ended, sorry for going on another Roman tirade, because, I did plenty of that last night, but, we saw last night, directly post-match, they tried to show the crowd to see, their reaction to the win, and you could clearly see people just getting up and leaving, and, it's getting to the point where what a lot of the Roman detractors have been saying for years now is actually happening, where even the fans, and I've said myself even on this show that, I've grown on Roman since Great Balls of Fire of last year, since the whole Braun feud. And, I like him a hell of a lot more than I did 2 years ago. But this just... what they've done last night and tonight just completely threw him behind the 8 ball yet again, and there's no turning back at this point. You either do something smart with him or he's a lost cause.
The definition of an insanity is what?
Exactly. Vince is legally insane at this point because he has done the same thing for 4 years now and has not changed.
Yep, and expecting different results,
exactly.
Doing the same thing, not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, and I think we've seen not only this with just Roman, we've seen it with John Cena, and the way they try to use him and say, oh, no one likes me backstage, and I have to prove myself every day in every match because no one backstage believes in me, not even the people in charge. Come on. What? You're just being the dumbest.
Oh, I just bursted out laughing as soon as he said that the people in charge and I have to play backstage politics, and I don't want to play backstage politics. I just bursted out laughing. I was like, "Oh my god, you've got to be kidding me!"
Yeah, it's completely ignorant, and I agree with you. Now, let's be fair to the fans, like you mentioned. You've said it. There are the casuals out there who just watch Raw, just watch SmackDown, who don't read anything on the internet, don't know anything else, and that's totally cool. I have nothing against anyone who does that. I think it's great because you actually get a chance to watch the product with any bias or without any of the other things that will kind of cloud which they want you to see, right? But sadly, I mean, this is our job. We've got to pay attention. We have to know.
But even then, I mean, semi trying to play devil's advocate, but semi not at the same time. Even for those casual fans, even for the ones who are completely out of the loop, even for the ones that are really new to the product, you hear the reactions and you're thinking, why is this guy who they are clearly trying to make us like getting such poor reactions? And in today's social media and internet and completely connected society, these people are going to look on the internet, see what has been going on over the last 4 years with Roman, and realize, oh wow, he's a complete liar. I should not be rooting for this guy. So it's basically counterintuitive even amongst the casual fans, because on a promo like this of him saying, oh, I've had to fight my way, I'm not playing politics, yada yada yada, even those casuals, if they care enough about the product that they're gonna think, why are all these fans booing this guy? They're gonna go look. They're gonna try to figure this out, and they're gonna see why. And as a result, they're going to become one of the multitude of people who are booing him.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. You're totally right. And, it's one of those things where, I look at it and say to myself, how would I perceive this if I was someone who, didn't watch the product on a normal basis? And I think eventually people do catch on to that kind of stuff. I think that they do find out some of the things, not even looking at the internet, not even talking to friends. It's very blatant. It's very in your face at times. So I could totally see where you're coming from. I just think that there might be people who are not in that realm and still think, oh, well, Roman's not so bad. And look, oh, wow, people really don't like Roman backstage. Well, and that's very gullible, but hey, not everyone's going to be in the know. So, it's interesting. And, it's something we deal with every day.
I'll use my own personal example. Granted, I had someone who was more of a Smarky fan kind of teaching me throughout my process of becoming a wrestling fan. But I really came into WWE during the summer of Punk. And, some of the things he said at first kind of flew over my head, but, by him teaching me and through me learning things, I kind of realized, okay, this is why this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those fans who maybe are casuals now, but actually want to get invested in the product, they're going to learn very quickly why to hate Roman if WWE continues on this path.
Yeah. And there'll be those who do, and there'll still be those who are going to love Roman no matter what, right? There's still people that love John Cena, and there's tons of people that don't. So, it doesn't really matter what side of the coin you land on, but I get where you're coming from, and I totally understand it. I'm kind of with you on it.
The bigger issue now, especially with Roman, is that it's getting to the point where even the fans that like him, and maybe this is just because of, I don't entirely, I have an idea of why this is, but, the fact that, look at last night, everyone with half a brain, as soon as he got back into the ring, it was the very 80s-esque or, late 2000s, early 10s-esque, Hogan/Cena, where LOL Roman wins. We've seen it on the internet countless times. And last night was the biggest example of this, to me personally. And this is coming from a guy that has grown to like Roman over the last year. Last night was the greatest example of this philosophy that he's ever had. Where, as, Joe's beating him down to a bloody pulp for the entire time before the bell rings. And as soon as he gets in the ring and the ref is like, you okay? You ready to go? And he's like, yeah. And they ring the bell. You're like, it's over. He's going to win. I don't care how badly Joe beats him. He's going to find a way to win. And that is a very bad thing when it is that damn predictable.
Yeah. It's just like watching MacGyver. Let's be honest. It's like watching MacGyver's going to be screwed. He's going to be put in a deep,
and
deep, dark
hole. And he's still going
to
manage to win. Or it's like it's like Walking Dead. Rick is going to get put back on the back of the wall so many times, yet he'll survive somehow.
Yeah, and you know what? Eventually people are going to hate Rick, and sometimes...
Well, they already have.
Yeah, you're right. There are people that already do it, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that. But I think your point with Roman Reigns is valid, and I think we're going to see more of this progress, and we're going to have some different storylines kind of thrown at us to see if we'll find another way for us to fall in love with Roman. If we're not going to fall in love with him against Joe or whoever, and using this whole thing with Roman Reigns of let's feel bad for him because he has to fight just as hard as everybody else. We all know that it's not working. No, just like the whole thing, and I can say this because they didn't do anything with Nia Jax, but at Backlash, the most nauseating, disgusting thing that they could ever do was have her come out and cut a public relations speech
But
at the end of the match.
at least
Oh,
that worked a little bit because because of how she's been used in the past and how this whole storyline was built.
but it's god awful. It's terrible.
I understand why some people didn't like it, but how many more segments do we have before the Bobby Lashley thing? Because I feel like I want to talk about that in reference to this now.
Well, you know what? We do not have to go in complete order. Let's just go ahead and talk about Bobby Lashley. Now, this was just to set this up, just in case someone didn't watch Raw and they're listening to us tonight to get their fill of Raw. WB did this great video package of Bobby Lashley and his life and his family and all that, and kind of gave you a little history of who he is and his first run with WWE and all that great stuff. They didn't show any of the Donald Trump stuff. That's what's kind of funny. But they showed everything else, and it was just a nice feel-good spot. They also threw in an interview with Renee Young and him, and he talked about his sisters and growing up, and so I think it really was nice, and it set up Bobby Lashley as a sweet, nice babyface guy.
While I get where you're coming from, this is where I agree with you on the Nia Jax level. Nia Jax, it worked because her whole storyline was built around that. Bobby Lashley, anyone who has paid attention at all, knows he was in Bellator. Knows he's been a badass in TNA for how many years now. This is where it's kind of like WWE is doubling down in the opposite way of, because the Roman experiment, because they've used it poorly, hasn't worked. Badasses in WWE, even though you have Braun Strowman, who's the complete counterpoint. Badasses in WWE don't work in the PG era. Yeah, they do if you write them correctly. This did not do anything for me to endear me to Bobby Lashley. This just made me feel like, okay, so he's human, so what?
Here's the thing, okay? So, in my opinion, the Bobby Lashley thing was because they needed to have him with some substance as we sit here today. If you're a viewer of WWE television and you've only been a part of the WWE universe since, well, let's just say 2016, Bobby Lashley is nowhere in sight in your memory because you don't have one of him. You don't know anything about it. All you just know is this current product. And then all of a sudden he shows up at the night after WrestleMania and you're supposed to be excited about somebody you don't know a lot about. So that's what they did here. They gave him substance. Even if you knew him in the past, his newest run, this run that he's having now, there's nothing really there to grasp onto.
I'll agree with that.
You would have to really be a big wrestling fan like yourself to really know that, hey, he was just on Impact. He was doing some great things. See, the things that bother me about Bobby Lashley right now are not for the fact that WWE is doing anything wrong with him, but for the fact that I remember that he was the big dog on Impact Wrestling, him coming over to WWE. No longer that, and not gonna be. And I have a problem sometimes is seeing him play second fiddle a little bit because I'm like, oh man, you were a main eventer. Now you're just kind of there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely. I mean, that's definitely one of my issues. But maybe it's because, and I'm the first one to say I'm shocked that I'm saying this, and honestly, this really shows, and this really, I'm shocked. I'm even more shocked now thinking about it in depth that I'm saying this because it really shows how toned down the WWE product has gotten over the last couple of years. Because I never thought I would go this route, even though a lot of previous WWE fans have gone this route in order to get their fix, but over the last half year, ever since the Mayweather-McGregor super fight, I've gotten more into combat sports, and I've trying to catch up. And so, at least for me, and I honestly do feel like a lot of the other fans, especially a lot of the smarkier fans, if you played on to the fact that, oh, Bobby Lashley was in Bellator, Shinsuke Nakamura was in Pancrase, Jack Gallagher was in some sort of British MMA promotion. Baron Corbin did, I forget what it's called, like Golden Gloves, I think it was called, boxing. Build up the fact that these guys are legitimate badasses, it could help their presentation, I feel, on WWE.
Yeah, I think you're right in the instance of if you want your product to feel more real,
Exactly.
right? Realistic. We want to get back to that whole thought process, and, bring back some of the kayfabe. Then I feel like, it's really something that's very positive, but we all know that WWE does not care about promoting anybody else unless it just does them a wonder of good, right? So I think that's where
but you
I think we're going
don't
to
even have to promote specific promotions. You can just say that he was a former, and I mean, they have said it periodically for Baron Corbin.
Yeah,
they have said every now and again they'll mention he's a former Golden Gloves champion. But they don't do it enough to where, they really make it sink in. And and honestly, he's the only one that I can think of that they do it for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think really what the problem here is we share this in common. We expect them to bring Bobby Lashley, the monster, out and showcase him as a monster. WWE doesn't want to do that. I don't think they do, and I don't know why exactly that is.
The irony about it, though, is that he's been teaming with the Monster Among Men for, 3 or 4 weeks now? Make it, where, hey, I'm teaming up with this guy because he's another monster. I'm a monster, too. I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And I can do whatever I want.
Well,
I think the biggest issue, and I mentioned this in the group chat, the biggest issue right now, and we've talked about it as ad nauseum about a wider range of guys, but the biggest issue right now, because it is the PG-PC WWE of the modern era, is that for whatever convoluted, screwed up thought in their minds they have, they're like, oh, we can't make faces be monsters. We can't make faces be badasses. We have to have them be the smiling, cheerful, happy-go-lucky, corporate guys that, we can sell to companies and to, make a wish and be a star and all of this.
Yeah. That's what their deal is, but that's them being corporate. That's them being who they are, and
which is why the indies are taking over.
Yeah,
I've been saying for years, whether it's wrestling, whether it's music, whether it's sports, no matter what it is, the best product for any entertainment product is when it is independently run and not corporate.
Yeah, we all have our opinions, and I love indie wrestling. I do. I'm a big fan. But let's be honest, the major market for at least WB is not independent fans, right?
It's not the real fans. It's the casual women and children now.
Yeah, women, and that's what they were showing Bobby Lashley to really, be as someone who's friendly to children and women, right? That's what they were giving us tonight, and that's okay. I don't really have any hatred towards it because it at least gave Bobby Lashley something, some substance of some sort, even if it was candy sweet.
I'll just say it outright. It completely undermines him, and The only thing that's going to save him from getting the Roman Reigns heat at this point is twofold. One, the fact that he's not going to get a major monster push like Roman did. And the bigger thing is that all of the men that are watching who are in the know are going to more so cheer him for his past as part of TNA and as part of Bellator more than what he's doing in WWE. They will cheer him for his past in spite of his present.
Yeah. And I can understand that, and I know where you're coming from. I think what's going to really matter in the near future is who he's going to take on in a singles match, right? What feud is going to be the first, and what's going to make it matter?
Yeah.
How can we see Bobby Lashley as we should? Those are the questions. Those are the things we want to know and, of course, see. So, there's a lot here, and I think your points, they're your opinions, and I appreciate them. And I kind of look at this, too, and have some of those same concerns and questions. And, of course, I'm not so terrified of, this babyface Bobby Lashley. I do love heel Bobby Lashley way more. I think that's why they signed him.
I'm not even saying that he needs to be heel. That's what I'm saying. You can make a face in modern pro wrestling without him having to be super gooey and super, over the top nice. We've seen it in WWE even with Braun Strowman. Just do that. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why they don't want to do it, because it is Braun Strowman. They don't want to do that again. They want to make this a little different. They want to make this guy stand
could you just imagine? I mean, I get it would completely undermine the tag division even more than it already has, and it wouldn't make much sense storyline wise, considering the whole thing with Braun and not wanting a tag partner before Mania. But could you just imagine just Braun and Lashley just going on an absolute rampage throughout the whole entire tag division and winning the titles?
I could imagine it, but I don't know how exciting I'd be to see it, because
I'd be excited to see it, at least in the beginning. I don't know how much of a shelf life it would have, but it would be hella fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it'd be a blast to watch for the first month or two, and then
you could just have, or then you could just have them be like, you could basically have them do a Team Hell No and be like, I'm the tag team champions. No, I'm the tag team champions, and then have them break up and feud for the titles and then lose it somehow. I mean, you could do it if WWE was actually smart enough and creative enough and think outside of the box enough. They could easily do it.
Yeah, they could do it, and they could work for a little while. But, we'll talk about the tag team champions in a minute here, and kind of maybe we can get into more of that and why maybe there's a reason they're not doing that. So, but yeah, that's the whole deal. And Bobby Lashley, we'll have to see, like I said, what happens with his first feud and all that. But right now, it is seeming like he's kind of a sweet baby face at the moment. So, kind of curious to see how this is. I know you don't like it. We'll see. Let's move on, though. We got a big, interesting match that I don't think was that interesting. No Way Jose, and of course his compadres, none other than the fellas that really, I'm just really trying to figure out this connection between them and why they're even doing it. But the Titus Worldwide, I don't know why the connection between the way Jose, Titus World, but it's just the silliest thing. They take on the Revival and Baron Corbin.
I said at first, I was like, what is Titus Worldwide? Or I said, what is No Way Jose joining Titus Worldwide? And Tori very quickly rebutted. She's like, no, Titus Worldwide is joining No Way Jose. So, yeah, pretty much.
That's really sad, Brandon. It's really sad.
Well, it's true.
I know it's true, but that's what makes it so depressing, because Titus O'Neil, he's been there for a long while, and Apollo, he was supposed to be this potentially grand guy. Now they're kind of, hey, guy from NXT, we're going to go on your coattails. Yeah, okay. But yeah, the Revival and Baron Corbin, they take those guys on, and it was just kind of written on the wall. Baron Corbin's involved in this match. You knew he was going to get the pin. He does. He gets it over No Way Jose. This is a match that was okay. I don't really have any problem with it per se, but it was just, to me, kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly surprised, especially with them having these two get the win and pin respectively. This could have easily just been the end to that feud, or like the second part of that feud of having Baron get his, his revenge on No Way Jose for getting the win last week by getting a pin on Jose this week. This could have easily been done in a one-on-one match. If you're going to try to continue the feud beyond just another match or whatever you're going to... I mean, it doesn't really make any sense what you're going to do with it. But I just feel like if you really wanted this tag team match to matter while not mattering at the same time, you should have had Baron pin either Titus or Apollo. It just doesn't make sense for him to pin Noe unless that is going to count as basically the tying match, and then they're going to have a big tiebreaker, either next week or moving forward sometime.
Yeah, and that's kind of the formula they do sometimes, to be honest with you. So maybe that's exactly why they did it. I don't know. I don't know if I really care all that much, to be honest with you, because I kind of want to see the Revival doing something bigger than this.
My point still stands so far.
Yeah, it does. It still stands. I'm just saying that's what I want to see. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and this feud will probably continue, and I'm probably going to have as much excitement as that is right now. But yeah, I kind of want to move on past this. Let's talk about the.
I mean, let me just say real quick. I was glad last week that Jose actually got a win. I'm happy that they did not use this as a way to push Baron by giving him a couple of squash matches against Jose.
Yeah, I agree with that point. That is a good point there. So let's talk about the qualifying match for the women's Money in the Bank match, which will involve Sasha Banks, Ember Moon, and of course, none other than someone else that I think a lot of people were kind of curious to see is who was going to be, and it is Ruby Riott. And so Ruby Riott's going to be a big part of this match. Well, that means that the Riott Squad's a big part of this match. We all know that, along with Bayley, who shows up to be kind of a distraction, or try to help when she can, I guess. This match ends up with Ember Moon getting the victory, and she will be, inside that women's Money in the Bank match. I think this was an okay match. Once again, just the classic distractions, the issues, those kind of things all involved in this match. But it was honestly nice to see Ember Moon get the victory. She's new, she's young, and I think it's great for them to do that. Of course, we'll still have more of this whole thing between Bayley and Sasha Banks going on. How did you feel about it all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with this match. I liked seeing Ember get a win so early on her main roster voyage. And, her getting into the Money in the Bank ladder match. It's a good opportunity for her. But in all honesty, this match was really more so to continue the whole feud, the whole confusing, convoluted feud that is Bayley versus Sasha versus Riott Squad / Absolute. It was Absolution, now Riott Squad. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to wait and see where they go further with this. I mean, it's interesting in the sense that there are definitely a number of different ways you can go with this, but it's like I just feel like, to a lot of us, it just feels like they're drawing out the inevitable.
Yeah, I think so too. That's the problem with it. I think this Ember Moon victory is the most positive thing out of this entire match. Outside of that, the rest of it is just kind of okay. Well, that's expected. This is expected. Blah blah blah. That's
Pretty
honestly
much.
the big way I feel about it. And not taking anything away from Ember Moon, but yeah, the rest of them are just kind of predictable and not much there to get too excited about. To be honest with you, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
So. But yeah, I mean, we're happy to see Ember Moon move on, so we'll move on past this. Let's talk about really quickly this little interaction between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens backstage. Sami Zayn's not really happy the way things are going for him and Kevin Owens, and Owens gets mad at him, and says, why are you worried about you? Look what I just had to go through. I went through the apocalypse. But, I also have to deal with what you did to me last night, which is slap me in the face. And Sami Zayn says, that was in the past. Let's look to the future. I think this is kind of a funny interaction. I know it kind of is going to lead down a certain road, but at least right now it's kind of funny to see these guys interact and be what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny at the moment, but, like you said, looking forward, it's just like, really, you're gonna break them up again so quickly after this? I feel like, I mean, we talked about it before, where they're kind of in, they're in push limbo right now. And the best way, honestly, to get them out of push limbo is to just let them stay together and go into the tag division. I mean, they don't even necessarily need to win the tag titles. I certainly would like to see them win the tag titles. But you don't necessarily need them to win the tag titles. But you can certainly do a lot of things with them as a tag team. I've said for a while they're the better version of the Best Friends. So I'd like to see them do a little something as a tag team. Maybe even turn face together.
Yeah, I don't have so much of an issue with them being a tag team. Honestly, hey, if you help the tag team division on Raw, you make me very happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I would still like to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have singles matches here and there, right? I think that to me that would be something that would have to be a must.
Well, you'd still see the tag, or you'd still see singles matches here and there. Like, whenever you're having a tag team feud, it always seems that they're gonna have singles matches. AA versus BB and then AB versus BA and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I get that. I do. But even outside just the feuding stuff, I like to see those guys have some singles matches just because, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see if they hold on to this partnership between these two longer than Money in the Bank or however long they want to do it. But it does, once again, it's kind of like the Bayley and Sasha thing. It's just delaying the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we all kind of have a little dread about that.
The main thing, and you talked about the delaying the inevitable and everything, and the inevitable is probably coming, but especially for both feuds, but especially for the KO Sammy one, I hope they don't just do the same thing as they did before and have Kevin be the one to turn on Sammy. I want to see a Kevin Owens face run, at least for a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I don't know. I think it would be nice, but Kevin Owens is so good at being a heel. It's just, it's kind of hard for me to say yes.
I know. I know. And we all know that WWE would destroy it, as we've seen with Bobby Lashley. But
yeah, yeah, you're totally right.
But I still know I'm stupid, but I still try to hold out hope for certain guys.
I know you're not stupid, but hey, we all have wishes and hopes, and sometimes they come true, and sometimes we'll never get them. So, let's move on though. Let's talk about Jinder Mahal and Chad Gable, and this is a match that Jinder is supposedly trying to state his case that he deserves to be qualified, or at least get a qualifying match to get into the Money in the Bank. And this is a okay match. Chad Gable gets some, offense in, but really this is about Jinder Mahal, and he gets the victory. And he's trying to prove a point to Kurt Angle. But, even later on, post this match, Kurt Angle still needs to be impressed. Even though Zack Ryder's beside him, he still needs more out of Jinder Mahal. That was kind of a weird thing, too, for me. But it is what it is.
I mean, I'm kind of glad they're going this route of, they're actually acknowledging for once something that the fans have been saying for, almost a year now of, hey, Jinder prior to his mega push was a jobber. Wasn't even a glorified jobber. He was a straight up jobber. So, yeah, you gotta prove yourself a little more to us. And I honestly think a la Roman Reigns, I don't think there really can be anything that he can fully do to prove himself. Yeah, they're still gonna push him for whatever reason, but, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think to have him around at least is a good thing, but to push him too far, just not going to work. No one's going to be way over the moon for him.
Nope.
Chad Gable is another guy that I really like. I think he's got some great ability, but I don't know. I feel like his ceiling is kind of low, and I hate to be that way, but I don't know if I really feel like he's a big star. I love him. I think he's a great guy. But I think WWE kind of feels the same way.
Honestly, there's a lot of guys, at least for me, and maybe this is just because, I'm still so used to how they were originally, but there are 6 guys in particular, well, 5. Well, technically 4 now, because one of them is gone from WWE, and the other one I did see as a singles guy previously, so I know he can do well as a singles guy. But there are 4 guys that I just feel like they are perpetually destined to be tag team guys. That as singles guys, they will never fully work out.
Yeah, and Chad Gable to me fits that bill.
It's Chad Gable, his former partner Jason Jordan, and 2 guys that I will discuss later on.
Yeah.
That have very similar backgrounds.
Yeah, definitely. And, is not hating on Chad Gable. Once again, he has some great ability. He really does, and he's a fun guy. I like when he's on the microphone. Well, he does a lot of good things, but he's not Daniel Bryan. That's the one thing. He is not Daniel Bryan, and his size and what he presents does kind of hinder him compared to maybe some others.
Harry basically described it with him teaming with Shelton Benjamin very fittingly. It's greatest tag team 2.0, where it's guys, Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, Jason Jordan all have the same thing in common. The only person that I can really think of that was in this archetype that kind of broke out of it himself is Kurt Angle. But those 3 all have the in-ring ability, all have the pedigree, but on the mic and in terms of charisma and in terms of character, they're just very bland. So they're best used as a purely wrestling-based mid-card talent, whether it's as a tag team or as a singles competitor. And more often than not, they work better as tag team competitors.
Yeah. And sadly, I mean, I kind of feel like that's where we kind of land on Chad Gable right now. Even though he's, like I said, a great athlete, he's definitely doing his job. Yeah. So we'll have to see where he continues to go. But right now, we know Jinder Mahal is going to be a part of some other things. So
honestly, and this just shows, how getting a manager and having a certain body, and obviously going elsewhere helps. But honestly, if it wasn't for both the eras that they were in and also certain other aspects to them, Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar could have easily been in the same exact position as these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally right. They could have, but things worked out a little differently for them. So
take nothing away from them physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And you know what? We sit here tonight and we're saying all these things, but maybe 6 months, a year later, maybe we'll be eating our words. Maybe something will take place. But I just kind of feel like that at the moment. So.
Yep.
Let's talk about another match, and this is, of course, a Heath Slater and Rhino match, which we all know what that probably means. They take on. Yeah, I didn't have to even mention the other tag team. You immediately got the right answer when you said squash. And we used to have a sound effect that did that, so I used to like it. But anyway, they do take on a tag team that I think a lot of people are really enjoying right now. Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. This is a tag team that, I say a lot of people, but at least in my opinion, I think a lot of people like them. They get the squash here. It's nice to see these guys actually doing something that matters. And Drew McIntyre, once again, he's coming back and he's trying to get people to remember who he is. Mm-hmm. I think this is a good way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I mean, Drew is one of the guys that, honestly, his gimmick works. What he says works. And what's honestly the biggest surprise to me personally, and maybe you have an answer for why this is. I tried to think of one, but I couldn't really think of one. But he's basically saying very, granted he's only been on the mic I think once or maybe twice at most since he's been back, but at least on the main roster. But, he's saying very CM Punk-ish stuff. And yet, he's still getting primarily boos. And same with Dolph Ziggler. He was saying a lot of, very truthful things. And yet, he's still getting boos. Is there a reason for this?
I think the crowds are just not sure they really like it. And I don't know why. I don't know that pure reasoning. I kind of feel like that they have something to offer.
Yeah.
I think what they have shown in the past, Dolph Ziggler has worked as part of WWE forever and just did nothing but have great matches. Drew McIntyre was a part of the company, left and did some amazing things on the indie circuit, comes back and goes to NXT, pretty quickly hops over to the main roster.
Yeah.
And really doesn't seem like he's lost any momentum, but yet the boos, continue. And I think it must be a crowd that doesn't understand what they're about.
The thing about that is that this is in, well, not quite Brooklyn, but close enough. It's in New York. It's on Long Island. The New York crowd is going to be there. You would expect a lot of smarkier fans to be there tonight, and yet. Let's see. Let's go down the checklist. Indy Darling. While yes, he was in WWE previously, he had a big run in TNA. Check. Going against the grain in WWE. Check. Basically bad-mouthing all of the, very, blasé and very, I'm just here for a paycheck type of, personalities that we have in WWE currently. Check. Pretty much trying to change the system. Check. Where's the problem here?
Yeah. The honest truth with it is CM Punk had that reputation going in.
That's
Drew McIntyre didn't have that reputation. And let's be honest, CM Punk was loved so much, and partly it was because he had the same Stone Cold heat of he's going against authority, and we all knew that some of that authority breaking or whatever you want to call it, that rebellion that he had was very reminiscent of another guy in Stone Cold. So, I think Drew McIntyre is doing great. I think he's doing his job. I don't even know if he, really has, addressed the crowd at all. I think pretty much he just says what he wants to say. But I think he's doing a good job of it. And I do, like you said, I feel like he means a lot of what he's saying. And it's really positive for me.
Because it's
good.
A lot of things, when he said that first promo, I think it was back on Raw when he first debuted, or like the next week or something, and he said how, there's all these guys who are just here for a paycheck and don't care about their placement in the company. I thought, yes, I've been saying this for, 2 years now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and you're totally right about that. It's just interesting. It really is. And I think the crowds, especially, with the way Dolph Ziggler's been and the way that these guys kind of present themselves together, I think people are going to start to really get behind them. I think so. I think it may just take some time. Let's just be honest. It's going to take a little bit longer.
Maybe it takes a few more times of Drew getting on the mic and saying that same thing,
Yeah. I think so. I think it'll probably come down to that. So I'm not going to give up on them very quickly. I think that they're doing an excellent job. It makes me happy to see at least Drew McIntyre being on the main roster again.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about...
I'm still disappointed. I said it on the first podcast that he had come back, but I'm still disappointed that we lost his great entrance from NXT.
Oh, I know. It's a shame.
Yes.
But that's the way WWE works sometimes. Well, let's talk about Bobby Lashley taking on Elias. And this is a match that we've seen before. We've seen Elias win. He lets the crowd know it beforehand. But Bobby Roode gets the victory tonight, and this is nice. I feel like it means that, at least Bobby Lashley. I was
just going to say.
I know, Bobby Roode.
When did Bobby Lashley face Elias?
I know, Bobby Roode. I am going crazy. We talked about Bobby Lashley for like 20 minutes, and now I'm kind of stuck on Bobby Roode gets the victory here.
There's too many Bobbies.
There really is. They should have called him just Bob Roode or something. But
Roode.
I know Elias gets this loss, which kind of surprises me because I thought they would just kind of continue to string this on. Bobby Roode getting the victory to me is a good thing. It means that they do at least care about him. And of course, he gets some time on the mic afterward and says that he hopes this kind of shows Kurt Angle that he deserves to be in a qualifying match and to get the Money in the Bank.
Well, who won their match last week?
I believe Elias, right?
Okay, then that makes sense. I mean, we talked about it before with Jose and Corbin. But, this is prototypical WWE, 50-50 booking. I have a feeling that this is going to result in, and you guys can quote me on this all you want, because I'm calling it right now. Next week, it will be Bobby Roode versus Elias. Not sure if it'll be a regular straight-up one fall match or best 2 out of 3 falls match. But whoever wins that match will get put into the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Well, there you go. So we'll go ahead and write that down and put it in the books. Let's see if you're right. But I mean, yeah, this is going to be fun to see what goes from here. But Bobby is a guy that I think, has some momentum if he wants it. But the fact is, are they going to give it to him? Because I think that he does really want to be strong in this, at this point, and maybe make some waves. But it seems like ever since he's been on Raw, they really haven't done a ton with him. Now it makes me at least hopeful that they will give him some more momentum, get him involved in some more big matches. So we'll follow that. And, of course, Elias losing to him just means they're going to feud a little bit more. So, well, let's jump over and talk a little Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins does come out and say that last night, he feels great after that big match against The Miz. That The Miz took him to the limit, but he got the victory. He says he wants to be a different kind of IC champion than The Miz. He wants to wrestle, and he wants to be there every single week. he wants to be, basically a great champion. And he opens up the door and sets up an open challenge for the IC title. Mojo Rawley shows up and says it's no longer going to be Monday Night Rollins. It'll be Monday Night
Raleigh.
Raleigh. I can't say his name. Raleigh. See, the problem is I always think of Raleigh. I can't say it Raleigh or Raleigh. I want to say Rowley. I don't know why I do. I want to say Raleigh. So, but anyway, there you go. So he basically makes his point known. He has a match with Seth Rollins and does lose this match. He does get some offense here. I think they did make Mojo look a little bit better than I figured they would. I thought this was going to be a pretty quick squash, but they did give him some good offense against Seth Rollins. It's commendable for them, but I don't know, man. I'm still not on the Mojo train.
Well, let me go back. And it's actually ironic that you just said that, because that segues me into what I was going to talk about. I said I was going to talk about this earlier. I said there were 3 tag teams that, there is one person that is very distinctively the guy, and then the other one is kind of now getting pushed, but isn't really getting pushed. I'm trying to remember who the third one was now. Do you remember who I was mentioning earlier?
I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, not off the top of my head. I'm not sure. Well, you kind of wanted to save it, so
yeah. Well, no, I was saving these 2, but the first one, and it's ironic because the 2 guys that are really over and are the main focal point are both from the tri-state area. But one is this tag team, Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder. And we want Ryder chants, during this match, and Mojo Rawley has the build and everything, has the Vince McMahon size and whatnot that, gets him the push. But really, Zack was the man of that tag team coming out of NXT. And now he is, kind of just there. He showed up earlier, but that was it. And then the other one, now the one guy that is left is on SmackDown, but Enzo and Cass. Cass just does not do anything for me. He's just a big guy. He's just size. He has no personality. We were talking about the wrestling tag teams, and how some of them, one guy is way bigger than the other, and that's the way it is right now. We heard last night, we want Enzo chants when Cass was in the ring. The boring big guys do not work unless you have them in a tag team.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it has to be that way, So, I mean, I kind of feel the same way at points, but you got to have those big guys find that personality. They've got to do it. And it's kind of up to them too. And sure, it's nice to depend on a tag partner or somebody to be your manager, but I kind of feel like they need to learn it.
Oh yeah.
So. But yeah, I mean, once again, you got a guy like Riley, bless you, who has, an opportunity here, which I think is a good thing for him, right? And taking on a guy like Seth Rollins is positive. So, to me, this isn't a bad thing, him losing. It just makes sense because, Seth Rollins is going to defend against someone else next week.
Yeah.
But at least Raleigh got his opportunity.
Oh, yeah. That's what these while these open challenges should be used more to create feuds and whatnot, what these open challenges really are used for, in WWE, especially recently, have been to give lower mid-card to lower-end guys opportunities at the titles that they would never get otherwise, just to have them lose and just to kind of give the champion a bit of a push because, hey, I was able to defend my title against all of these guys.
Yep. Very much so. So, We'll continue to follow Seth Rollins and what he does with this Intercontinental Championship and how, they are going to have him defend it week by week. But, to me, they started it out pretty well. I did not have any really big issues with Mojo and him in their match. So.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about a pretty quick match here. We have the Raw Tag Champs, which is Bray Wyatt and Woken Matt Hardy, take on Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. We all know what that means. Squash, you're right. And, so, really, this is a tag team that is going to get the victory. I like this tag team. Maybe this is the reason why I was kind of saying they did not give Braun and, of course, Bobby Lashley an opportunity to be a tag team because, they would just come and take out these two guys and they'd be the champs. That's probably why they're not doing that. They're going to let these guys, Woken Matt Hardy, do his thing, and him and Bray kind of continue on with those belt, for a little while. Those belts will be theirs.
But, honestly, you could figure out a way, especially with these two of all people, to actually have a legitimate chance against Braun and Bobby. Because you could use kind of, Wyatt has already done it in the past. You could give Bray a bit of it, or you could give Woken Matt Hardy a bit of an Undertaker type thing going on, or something like that. You could use some of their supernatural powers to give them the upper hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true. But how much do they want to invest? That's the question. Do they really want to invest that much?
That's always the question with Bray Wyatt, because as we've seen, he's become a running joke because, they always seem like they're going to give him a push, and then as soon as you're thinking, oh, he's actually back to where he's supposed to be, they pull the rug right out under you.
Yep, that's the truth, and it would not surprise me if that doesn't happen in the very near future.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there could possibly be some little clouds ahead of us on that one. So, besides that, that's what's going on with your tag champs. They'll probably have another match or two.
Let me just say real quick, I was hoping and honestly disappointed that we didn't at least get a little bit of a hint. Well, two things. One, I was disappointed that we didn't get at least a little bit of a hint of them maybe considering joining them. And also, it would have been kind of funny, if not for, the casual fans, for the smarky fans, it would have been a little bit of a fun little thing having Bray and Bo go up against each other.
Yeah, that would be fun. And they'll probably do that down the line. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't do that just for kicks, right?
But how are they going to justify a rematch for this match?
Yeah, that's a big question. I don't know how they would justify that. I don't. And that's what's the bummer about it. Here's the thing I would have done to make it even more entertaining. I would have actually sent, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas to the actual compound and have them come and try to do what you just said. Try to get themselves recruited into the Woken universe.
That would be, yeah. See, that's the thing. And, I know that this isn't WWE's thing because, and I've said it before, I think either on this podcast or one of the other ones, I've said, the biggest irony in WWE, over the last, 5-10 years, is that while they want to say, and publicly they'll say, oh, we're entertainment, we're sports entertainers, we're not wrestling, we're not sports, we're not legitimate, all of this, trying to, take themselves away from anything and make themselves more entertainment than sports. They take themselves way too seriously, and they aren't willing to do some of the more campy, some of the more funny things that some of the other promotions do, like with Broken Hardy with TNA, or like with the Toru Yano in New Japan, or with, I can't really think of anyone in particular in Ring of Honor that does anything really like funny. I mean, Young Bucks are in both New Japan and Ring of Honor, so like those guys, there are so many things that happen outside of WWE that like they just throw like it. And the biggest irony of it, especially for Ring of Honor and New Japan, is that like in the ring, they take themselves much more seriously, and they say, they have the code of honor, they have, they treat it as a legitimate sport, yet at the same time, they'll do these funny things just for laughs.
Yeah, you're right, and the comedy part of it is actually kind of it's one of those lighthearted things that you want to see more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and it brings
one of my
more
favorite matches of all of 2017 was the G1 Climax match between Toru Yano and Kenny Omega. Mm-hmm. Just seeing them wrap each other up in athletic tape. It was hilarious. Please go look it up if you haven't seen it.
Oh boy, yeah, I'm right there with you. I love that kind of stuff, and it definitely brings a new addition to a match or a feud or whatever is out there. So I think, we, have to look at this whole situation with the Woken universe and what's going on with the Woken Matt Hardy. I think that he adds a lot. They just need to let him do it and stop just saying, hey, here's a match. You guys go do it. And then, next week, here's another one. And the next week, let the guys actually do something what they're good at.
I know WWE does not like to do this anymore, but he is one of those guys that you need to give complete creative control to. Mm-hmm. And just let him run with what he needs to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a gut feeling that they're not doing that just yet because, they don't trust him enough to do that. But secondly,
even though they should, because he's been in the company for 17 years now.
Yeah, I know. It's just they have their quirks about them. I think the other reason is that they're not ready to push the storyline with Woken Matt Hardy very strong just yet. So they're saying save all that good stuff when we want to push you a little bit further. Mm-hmm. Right now we're pushing Seth Rollins. Right now we're pushing other guys that we feel like need our attention. Later on we'll get around to you. Just hold your horses. And I think that's what they're doing right now. So I'm going to cut Hardy a little slack on that one for the time being. But yeah, let's jump into the main event here. We've got another big qualifying match for the Money in the Bank. And, of course, that means that you have Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor all in a triple threat match here. And it was a pretty wild one. Of course, Sami Zayn is, being that normal guy that he is and kind of playing it up and taking his best shots. But you have Finn Balor and Roman Reigns really getting hot and heavy in this one. We do have Jinder Mahal screw things up for Roman because he trips him up and drops him to the mat, and that makes it a really good opportunity after a haluva kick from Sami Zayn for Finn Balor to get the coup de grace. 1, 2, 3. Finn Balor gets the victory, and it's really because Jinder Mahal kind of, helped him along with it. Not that they were going to be best friends after this, but this wasn't as clean as they would have wanted it to be, but part of that is because they want Roman to still look good despite losing this match. So.
I mean, this is all just, the last two nights have really been, and it's kind of ironic after, I know it's Brock, but still, after Roman lost to Brock twice in a row. And people were honestly saying throughout the internet, like, oh my God, has Vince finally come to his senses and, soured on Roman? And, suddenly turned around and it's like, nope, never mind, nope. I mean, I talked about it ad nauseum last night. If you want to listen to it and our very long discussion on this match from last night, please tune into the SmackDown Live guys review of Backlash. But last night was very as soon as Roman got into the ring, it was LOL Roman wins. And everyone with half a brain saw it coming. This match, honestly, and I'm glad that it didn't happen this way, because it just would have made things way worse for WWE. But, as he was coming over that barricade and attacked, I think it was Sammy at ringside, after they put the whole beatdown on him over in the technical area, it was like, oh God, here we go again. Roman's gonna Hulk up and make the comeback and win. If it wasn't for Jinder, it probably would have happened.
Yeah.
But I think someone, I think it was Liz who said on the group chat, she was like, "This is the way to get Jinder over as a face," and I was like, "Oh God, yeah, you're right."
Yeah,
but
that's not gonna happen.
But I mean, excluding all of that, I'm absolutely ecstatic that Balor got the win. I'm certainly hoping that he wins Money in the Bank and finally gets his rematch that he's been deserving for almost 2 years now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would love to have him, actually cash that in and get the victory and be the Universal Champion, and just to see him hold it again, and for him to feel like he is right there amongst the rest of those guys. I feel like that makes him a lot stronger, at least when it comes to showcasing him in other places. If they were to go that route, now are they going to do it? I don't know. But I really, really do hope it's the case. And him qualifying here and qualifying over Roman Reigns, I mean, Sami Zayn, you can take it or leave it. But for him to qualify over Roman Reigns, that's a big deal. And I think that does matter. And I think that hopefully we'll have people looking at this and really expecting big things from Finn Balor. And yeah, Jinder Mahal still doing things, but I think this is really also a way to get Roman Reigns out of that Money in the Bank match. Have him and, Jinder Mahal do something for the time being. That's okay with me. That really is okay with me. I don't need Jinder in the Money in the Bank match, or I don't need Roman either. So
that's actually honestly that's actually honestly going to be a very, very interesting feud if they do go that route. Going into Money in the Bank, if Lesnar is not going to be at Money in the Bank. If they do Roman versus Jinder one-on-one, that's going to be a very, very interesting crowd to listen to.
Yeah. Maybe that is the way to get him to be a babyface, right? Jinder can all of a sudden be the one that everyone loves. So.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying quite the opposite. That's the thing, is that there's going to be those of us that, will perpetually think of Jinder as a jobber. And will always just completely ignore him, and thus, I mean, I've said before, while I will talk crap about him a lot not so much about him, but about the booking when they do things like what they've done over the last couple of nights. I have grown to like Roman since last July, since Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah.
So, I definitely would be going for Roman in that match against Jinder, because Jinder, he will always be a jobber to me.
Well, fair enough. I think I may be on the flip side of that. Roman's not bad or anything, but I just don't have to see him all the time. I don't have to see him win all the time either.
Oh, I'll agree with that. That's what I was complaining about with last night, especially after how Joe just completely beat him down.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, that was a big disappointment because of that reason. But, I mean, we'll, of course, have to probably say that more often than we want to. Because this is not the end of that story.
No.
Let's just be honest. That's not the end of the story. So, but, yeah, I mean, this is a match, like you said, Brandon, I'm so happy for Finn Balor. I hope good things come out of this. I hope it's not just a win on Raw and then we move on and put him back in his place. Hopefully he does get some good things coming. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps up Raw. That's everything that we really had to get into. What did you rate this Raw, Brandon?
I'll give it a 6.5. It wasn't bad. Some moments were pretty good, but others were very much head scratchers.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think a 6 is kind of where I'm at. I think we're not far apart on that. I think it was a decent show. I think that they gave us some good things when it came to really, getting into some new feuds or at least moving things along to Money in the Bank. They didn't halt around and stay on Backlash and some of those things. They kind of just moved forward.
Mm-hmm.
Made me very, very happy to see that. They made Money in the Bank matter already. Already, without waiting closer to Money in the Bank, they went ahead and said, "Hey, this thing's a big deal."
Well, it should be.
That feels good. You're right; it should be. There are times you don't really feel like it is, and I think right now they're doing a good job of making us feel like it matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think a 6 is kind of where I lie on that one. So. But yes, that's our show, everyone. Wanted to make sure we let you guys know where you can find shows like this. And, of course, all the rest of the great Monday Night Raw review shows that we do. Make sure you go to W2Mnet.com. That's the place where you go find all these and a lot more other great podcasts. So don't forget to go check that out. Also, the W2M Network is the place where you go hit the subscribe button on wherever you get your podcast from. Maybe it's iTunes, iHeartRadio, or Spreaker.com. It doesn't matter. Just go find us, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to go rate and review while you're at it. Once you're hitting those 5 stars and you're giving us a comment and letting us know what you would think about the show, you've done everything in your due diligence, so we appreciate it. And also, make sure you go give our friends at 411mania.com and lastwordonprowrestling.com some love as well. They support us, and we make sure we support them. Besides that, please come join Brandon, Harry, and Liz for SmackDown Live tomorrow night, along with 205 Live. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how that show ends up, because SmackDown Live has got some interesting things coming, following Backlash as well. We're also going to be hopefully having an NXT show again this week. Brandon, I really want to do it again. So I kind of miss it. I miss NXT.
You can come back. You are accepted to come back. You can take you can take the reins of NXT again.
Yes, I'm excited about it. But yeah, so we'll get back into that this next week. And of course, make sure you also come check us out for Wrestling to the Max as well. There'll be some great stuff, hopefully, in store for you on that. Because news lately has been okay, but not great. So I'm kind of like, come on, guys, give us some really good news. But anyway, we are excited about all these great things. So once again, W2Mnet.com. Don't forget to go check it out now. I, of course, am Gary Vaughan. He is Mr. Brandon Biskobing, and we will catch you guys down the road.